To fully be present and in the moment, you must awaken your voice. My name is Matt Abrahams, and I teach strategic communication at Stanford Graduate School of Business. Welcome to Think Fast, Talk Smart, the podcast. Today, I am delighted to speak with Patsy Rodenburg. Patsy is a world-renowned expert in voice, speech, and presentation, with over 45 years of experience coaching across creative and corporate industries. She's the former head of voice at the UK Royal National Theatre and a director for the Royal Shakespeare Company. She has transformed how actors, prime ministers, CEOs, and global leaders communicate. She's written many books, including Presence and Power Presentation. Welcome, Patsy. I've been excited for our conversation for quite a while now. Thanks for being here.
I'm so delighted. And Matt, I think you're doing something so important about communication, because I think it's what the world needs now.
Well, thank you so much. Shall we get started?
Yes, please.
Excellent. You have worked with a number of famous people to help them with their presence and their voice. I'd like to start with voice. What are some of the foundational vocal principles you provide when you coach?
My work is about embodiment, and it's about a craft that is returning people to their natural selves. The good news is the vast majority of people are born with amazing voices, and somewhere along the line, they lose them. And my job is to return people to their full power in their body, in their breath systems, in their voices, in their ability to speak and use language in an exciting way.
Beyond the embodiment piece, are there principles you help people with around breathing
Absolutely.
or articulation?
So the first thing I would do is I would look at somebody's body and I would look at the tensions in the body. The body is like a connected journey. We have to connect to our whole body to find our voice. So the feet, the front of the feet, the knees not being locked. If you lock your knees, that tension goes all the way through the body into the throat. A lot of people with very tight voices, if you look down, they're locking their knees. The next thing that's incredibly important in the body is that the pelvic area is on top of the hips. But most people today, when they stand, they're either pushing their hips forward, locking their knees, and all that builds into the body and up into the throat. But the important thing about the pelvic area is that is where we have to breathe from. It's a very low breath down there. Think quickly. We also have to breathe quickly to think quickly. If we think without breath, it becomes a gabble. So that if you put your hand on your lower abdominal area and just feel that, you should feel the breath goes down. And that takes a bit of time and it calms you. We get frightened when we speak because we forget to breathe. So if I move up through the body, the spine has to be up, not braced, not pulling your shoulders back, not slumped. If we brace or slump, we reduce our breath and the energy gets stuck in the throat, which is when people say to me, I'm much more boring than I sound.
Mm-hmm.
Those wonderful ideas you have, they come out on a monotone, not because you're boring, because your voice is held and tight. And the last thing you look at, well, the two last things, the shoulders being free. If you're getting nervous, if you feel your voice is getting thinner, the first thing you can do is just to think to yourself, release my shoulders, release my jaw. Because until the body's in place, you can't breathe. And we're looking to see no upper chest tension. As soon as, you can put your hand on your upper chest, and if you breathe in, which most people do when they're nervous, the chest lifts. It shouldn't lift. Because as it lifts, I don't know if you can feel the back of the rib cage tightens. That means that you're not breathing because the lungs are at the back.
So it's balance of body and rooting yourself into the ground.
Yes. And looking out at the world. And of course, we know that we know who we're going to listen to long before they speak. We know through their body. And if you're centered, you come on, or you walk into a space with authority, with clarity. So the next thing I would do is is open the voice with the breath underneath it. And you can feel this if you're sitting beside a desk, if you push your hands against the table. Remember your feet on the floor, the front of the feet on the floor, and you breathe, you will feel the breath go down more.
Wow, that's a great activity. I'm doing that as I speak, and I see what you're saying. It is fascinating to me that body leads to breath, which leads to voice. And by connecting those together, you can improve and open up your voice to do the things that we want it to do. I often will say your voice is like a wind instrument. The more air you put through it, the more
Absolutely.
you can do with it. I'm curious. I recommend the limited voice work that I do. I recommend to my students and the people I coach that reading out loud can be a tool to help because it mimics speaking out loud, but it gives you a little bit more cognitive bandwidth to pay attention to breath because I don't have to think of the words. I'm reading them.
Read out loud. Absolutely. Here's another trick though. So if you stand with your book, maybe you're reading out aloud and you're holding the book up so that you're not looking down, which is not useful. And if you hold the book with one hand and stand against a wall and gently push with your other arm, which engages the breath, just like it did when you were pushing the table, you'll feel the breath. Now take a breath and read out, sending your voice to a point just above eye line. And then the voice not only leaves you, but it grows in strength. Most voices I meet, there's nothing wrong with them. They can be improved, Matt, but they're just rusty and dusty. They're not used,
I often tell people in my mind I'm amazingly eloquent, but when I open up my mouth, I'm not as lucky. You said several things there that really stand out to me. The voices you meet. I love that idea that we are our voice and we meet the person, but the voice they bring. And I like this idea of being generous enough to let your voice out.
Absolutely.
Your voice is a gift and you're giving it to the world. I want to get very tactical and practical here. Many people I know feel that their voice is quiet. You said something that made me wonder. You said visualize your voice going out over
Space.
your eye line, yeah, into
Breathe
space.
the space.
I imagine like an athlete warms up that there are some things we can do to help warm up our voice. I often marvel that people think they can go from silence to vocal brilliance without warming up. Do you have a favorite warm up activity or two that you could share that we could practice?
I'd get somebody standing. I'd stand myself. I warm up every day, of course. You stand, you stretch a bit, you let the shoulders go. You might flop over to one side and feel and breathe so the rib cage starts working. The rib
Ah,
cage gets
yeah.
very
Yeah.
rusty very quickly, Matt. It took me years to figure that out. It gets very rusty. Actors take a few days off and they're rusty. Do both sides so that we just get that very gentle, silent breath. If you breathe quietly, you'll be amazed how wonderful it feels in the throat. It's open. And the other one, which is great, is to give yourself a hug.
Mm.
Just flop over a bit from the waist with your arms up against your chest. And in that position, breathe in and out, and you will open the back of the rib cage. I have to say,
Mm.
most people today don't even think that the back of the rib cage is important.
Right.
Get those muscles working, and then first thing in the morning, you have to get the breath underneath the voice. So here's an image. I mean, you're an athlete, you know these things. To throw the voice. So if you can throw a ball, if you just breathe in, there's a suspension, and you throw the ball on the breath. Just like you did when you were pushing against the wall, you're feeling the breath. If you can do that, and imagine that you're throwing a ball and hum to a point, so you're just warming up the breath support, the support of the breath, humming, very light. And you're trying to get a buzz on the lips, which is the physical sign that your voice is coming forward. Most people today, their voice is stuck back down the throat. So they're mumbling down there. And if if the voice is stuck down the throat, you can't speak clearly because the speech muscles can't feel the energy of the voice. Keep the breath, keep the idea of it leaving you. And then maybe on an ooh. That's a lovely way of getting the voice forward. Ooh. Just bringing your lips. And literally, if you did that for a few minutes and then you spoke a bit of text out aloud, or if you're having a difficult conversation, practice it out aloud. Walk around the house with purpose, with your presence. Walk around, looking around, look outside a window, breathe to it so you're opening up the breath to the world, and practice what you have to say.
Thank you so much. I have heard of vocal warm-ups where you buzz your lips and puff out air, but I have never heard of working with the body, stretching the body. I like just leaning to the side, opening up the ribs, leaning forward, hugging yourself. Very useful. And I like that idea of visualizing pulling the voice forward so we're not mumbling.
What I'm doing now is I'm just imagining I'm throwing a ball or a dart maybe out.
Right.
It's not pushed, it's just you let it out. And within a few days, you will feel the difference. This is the simple stuff that people forget. They want to get onto the speech. Speech is the last thing in the chain. So once you've warmed up your body and your breath and your voice, you can start moving your mouth about a bit. But you know, these muscles will tune up very quickly as long as they've got the voice and the breath behind them.
Yes. Yet again, you are emphasizing the connection of body, breath, and voice.
Absolutely.
I'd like to transition to talk about physical presence, something I know is very important to you. What advice do you have for anyone wishing to improve their physical presence in how they communicate?
Well, I think the physical presence of the human being is the most important thing we have. We don't do anything well in life unless we put our full presence on it. If you talk to anthropologists, what made us so powerful on the planet is that we could build teams. A team doesn't exist until everyone is present. And presence is having an energy connecting to the world around you. And we all have it. It's the survival thing that we do. But presence is an outward focus, not on yourself, but to something else. And it's what we do when we walk in the countryside. We become present because we look at a tree or a bird in a tree. That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring us back to our presence. We go to the theatre, the actor has to be present, the ensemble is present, and they help us bring us back, as Shakespeare says, to be or not to be. That is the question. That is the question. And so I believe we're all born fully present. Most of us, very few people on the planet haven't got presence. So we have to re-find it. And I started this in the 70s, and I created something called the 3 circles of energy, because I found people were saying, oh, that actor has it and that one doesn't have it, which is rubbish. We all have it. So what I talk about in presence is if we understand where we take our presence away from ourselves, and that's first circle. First circle people, you will often see it in their body. They're pulling their presence away. They're looking down. They're shallow breath. So they're going into a little shell, and that the voice follows. So I'm going to do a voice of first circle when everything falls back. Hi, how are you? So instead of the voice going out, is falling back. So we can work in all sorts of ways on presence, but I would ask people to do exactly what I've talked about in the voice and look out to the world and make sure that they're not in first circle, which is that pulling back. I used to call it denial. I used to call second circle a state of readiness. So any athlete I'd work with, I can get them immediately present because they know that they have to be present to win the game. Third circle is when people are bluffing and they push out, and you'll see third person energy pushing out their chest. They're too loud. So the most powerful thing we can do in communication is stay present with somebody, present with a group. And when it works and people become present with us, we have an exchange. You can't ever say anything important to somebody unless you're present and they're present. So we practice every day being present. And imagine doing something that you do very well and you'll realize you're present. If you drive very well, you're present. If craftspeople are present, you don't make a great table without putting your presence into it.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are of us, and we can physically say to ourselves, look, I've just pulled back on my heels, my shoulders have rounded, my sternum has collapsed, my head, and my breath is very shallow, and I've just absented myself from the world.
I like this notion of the circles, and that the happy medium is in between the pulling and the pushing. It seems to me that it starts with awareness.
Absolutely.
You have to have that awareness of where are you in that moment. And certainly different emotions, different situations might cause you to start in one place, but once you have that awareness, you can move. And it sounds to me that we can check in with our bodies, that there are physical tells of where we are to bring us more to that neutral place.
It's about generosity and curiosity. If you're curious and you're generous, you're generally in presence. Now, the thing that you've said that's so important is that the physicality that we're talking about that stops the breath and the voice, either pulling away in first circle or pushing out in third, that stops us being aware of our presence. It cuts us off from the world.
When you and I very first chatted, and it was a lovely first chat we had, you said something that really stuck with me. You told me your thoughts on how important leveraging the space around us is for our
Yes.
communication. Most of us think of communication as getting what I have in my head into your head, but the space in which we do it and how we leverage that space can be really important. Can you share some insights on why we should pay attention to our communication environment?
We're talking about our physical energy, which is a physical energy around us. It is, we have a problem in our design is that we haven't got 360 sight. So we do have to feel around us. So when you're speaking to people, you have to be aware of their space and your space. Now that could also be making sure that you sit in a place where everyone can see you. It's a simple stagecraft. But you have to have the sense that there's space and breath around you and everyone for them to feel safe enough. We talk about a safe space, whether any space is safe, but the leader who allows everyone their space and that we can all see each other and recognize each other is a very good leader and has a chance to make people feel at ease. So it's the physical space around us, and then we get into stagecraft when what is the best place to stand? What is the best place? You see people giving keynotes and they're standing, and actually, if there's 500 people, 50 can't see them because they're not in the right place. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't walk around, but you've got to establish things, and you have to establish a safety in a way within your space. Where am I sitting? Am I looking down at you? Am I doing this? I say to teachers, do you know that most of the students can't see you, and you're wondering why they're bored? So those are the sorts of things. So it's our physical presence which does have space, and when somebody enters it without permission, it can be scary. And when we're in second circle with our space and we're seeing each other, we have equality. You see, first circle people, by pulling back, they're not necessarily inferior, but they're signaling inferiority. Third circle people, they're pushing their space and they're taking up too much space. They're signaling superiority. So we have to have an regard for each other's space, because then we can be equal.
Thinking about how space and our use of space helps communicate things is really important. I have a very particular instance that came to mind. I was coaching a very senior leader of a company everybody has heard of, and he was up on stage presenting, and he had something very serious to say. They were going to do a reduction in force. People were going to lose their jobs. And totally spontaneously, this was not rehearsed because I worked with him on his content. He stepped off the stage and walked into the audience to deliver the message. And while the message was not pleasing, people were not happy to hear the news, it felt different. And there was a connection that happened in that moment when he walked off the stage. It was not inauthentic or disingenuine. I think he really felt that in that moment. Where you put yourself
And
says a lot.
so that's a wonderful example of him realizing that he had to meet them closer.
We have to think about it, and we need to avoid the lecterns and podiums that cause us to be back from the audience.
Which causes us into third circle and masked. We become
Right.
masked.
Patsy, before we end, I like to ask 3 questions of everybody I interview. One I create just for you, and the others are similar across everybody. Are you up for that?
Yep.
So, Across your varied experiences, I am sure you have worked with many people who have anxiety around whatever they're doing, a doctor giving bad news, somebody giving a keynote that's really important, actors getting out on stage and taking risks that they haven't. Do you have two or three things that you can quickly share that help people feel more confident in their communication in those circumstances?
Try to stand up, feel the floor, release your shoulders. Before you go into the space, breathe deeply and slowly. Keep that going. Feel the suspension of the breath, which is I breathe in just that moment before you throw a ball. And this sounds counterintuitive. As you go into any space, look at people in the eyes. If you people, the more you look, the calmer you get. You look at people, you breathe, you take your time, you don't rush to begin with. The rushing will kick off even more adrenaline and you'll get more panicked. If you have a chance before you go into a space, or even if you're in a space, you can reset by thinking, I'll just stop for a moment and take another breath. You can just, and that will, I promise you, it will help. I can't get rid of the nerves, but the nerves don't become debilitating.
Anxiety and nervousness can actually help you. It gives you energy and focus. But I like this idea of the physicality of the deep breath and then the connecting through eye contact. While I agree sounds counterintuitive, for me it works really well because I realize these are normal people who
And you,
just want to be and get some value from what I have to say.
and then I will also say, worry about the audience rather than yourself.
Yes.
And they'll give it back. The more generous you are in life in these ways, the more you get back.
Thank you for that generous answer and for giving us very specific, actionable ideas. Question number 2, and you have worked with so many, I'll be very curious. Who is a communicator that you admire and why?
You know, Michelle Obama comes to mind. She takes her time, she's listening, she's with you, she's with the audience, and she's not frightened of being disliked. One of the most off-putting things is people wanting to be liked all the time.
Final question for you, Patsy. What are the first 3 ingredients that go into a successful communication recipe?
Prepare an embodied way,
Mm-hmm.
practice it, knowing that it won't be verbatim, practice. And again, it's the curiosity and the generosity that you bring into the space.
How wonderful of a recipe. It's about preparing, practicing, being present with your generosity and curiosity. A great recipe and great advice. And Patsy, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
You have awakened not only our voices, but our ideas and opinions to ways to be more effective in our communication. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely my pleasure.